Welcome to eHealth Learning, inspiring professionals worldwide.
So what we're looking at here on the left is my article on embodied compassion. It was a long interview. It came out in January. I did this interview last year, and before that I did a presentation at the Breath of Life conference in London, which I think was the May before that, so about a year and a half ago, all on embodied compassion. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that that's available to you, and that what I highly recommend is going through that. It has several, probably I think about 11 or 12 images of the embryo, which we're going to be going over in a couple of minutes. And what I'd like to say is that a very dear friend of mine, Friedrich Wolf, and I think some of you that are listening to me right now may know Friedrich or even have been in his class in Switzerland or in Germany. But Friedrich is also a phenomenal artist. And I commissioned a series of 21 watercolor drawings of the development of the human heart. And this was the first publication that we got these color images into. And so we're going to be going over some of those images, and I want to talk to you and give a little brief lecture, so to speak, on the development of the heart. So, John, if you would go ahead and get to the first image, past this interview. Oh, just scroll to the end. I thought there was a secret. There it is. It's interesting that the publisher put that image in. As we're looking now on the left, you can see it's actually a very old image. It's probably a drawing from the 1930s and 1940s, so it's probably in the public domain, and that's why the publisher put it in there. But it does show the heart at the very top of the image, and I think one of the challenges in studying embryology, and for me, just to say before we get very deep into the embryo right now, that biodynamic craniosacral therapy has several different styles. I don't want to call them models, but there's several styles of teaching this work. And one of the styles is an embryological based style. And that's my style, and several other teachers. So it's important to say that. And why is that important? And I want to name it right now because we'll just end up hearing an academic lecture, perhaps, for the next several minutes and not have any embodied sense of that. What makes the embryo come alive, and this is a principle, what makes the embryo come alive is that we are perpetual embryos because our body is continually forming and shaping itself. Every system of the human body has stem cells that are constantly underneath the structures that are present in our body right now. And these stem cells are constantly building the new material to replace the old material. This is the way it was in the embryo. This is the way it is right now in our body. We are constantly forming. When we put our hands on someone, we are putting our hands on a forming process. It is not a static process. It is not a musculoskeletal system. It is at one level, but when you add in primary respiration and dynamic stillness, the embryo actually comes alive. And so I'll get into that in a little bit, but many of you know that I teach primarily within the level called primary respiration. And so we have some metaphors for that, and one of the metaphors is the long tide. So I'm sure many of you listening to me right now have heard of the long tide. The breath of life is also a component of primary respiration, and we'll go into that in a little bit because I'd like to, after looking at the embryo, define terms. Okay?